You guys want to go ahead and get started then? You guys all coffeeed up? You guys got enough snacks and everything? I'm a little coffeeed out right now. But yeah, so I'm Christian Graham. Let me go ahead and grab this one. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I'm Christian Graham. I'm the founder and CEO of Merakairos Media, as well as the MK Lab. I'll share a little bit more on those in the next slide. I've been doing entrepreneurship since 14 years old, but legally formed in when I was 16 years old. So I've been an entrepreneur now for 15 years now. I'm 29. It's my wife Steph back there, getting some content for us. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys a little bit about how to grow your business, the blueprint for scaling, funnels, offers, and omnipresent marketing. And so a little bit about our businesses that we currently have is the MK Lab. We are the #1 batch content creating studio in San Diego for coaches, consultants, experts, entrepreneurs like yourselves ready to scale. We have done for you podcast studios available, batch content creation studios. So we have a photography studio there as well, a music recording studio, kind of like this all-in-one creative place. Merakairos is actually 2 Greek words put together, which is Meraki and Kairos, which means the most opportune time to put your love, soul, and creativity into what you do. And so that's what it is at the bottom there. And we're located in Miramar, so about 25 minutes from here. And our other company is Merakairos Media, which is a full-service digital marketing agency that specializes in ad creation, brand strategy and development, and content marketing, creative and media strategy and production. And so we, build out all of the content, scripting, either go to you and film on site with you to help you, develop ad creatives, organic social media content, video content like Crystal. Or you can come and utilize the lab if you don't have kind of like that go-to spot, dedicated space where you can content create for yourself. We recently just got rid of our restaurant, Smack and Gourmet and Grill, this past Sunday. So it's been a little bit under a week. We've had that for almost 6 years. It would have been 6 years in June. And we're actively looking for a buyer to do an asset sale with. And so, yeah, that was our baby. That kind of really was that big leap of faith that got us going into more big entrepreneurship. The other things I was kind of like garage manufacturing, since 16 years old and just kind of doing work out of the garage. And then Smackin' was that big leap of faith. Through Smackin', we were able to then fund these next couple of businesses in the MK Lab and Merakairos Media. And so let's go ahead and jump right into it. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the cost of staying stuck. So most entrepreneurs are great at what they do, but they have a slim understanding of how to deliver their product or service in front of the right people, right? Which leads to stagnation, lack of scalability, inefficiencies, and missed opportunities. And so the biggest thing to take away here is when you are, creating content, you need, the reason why it's so important to get active on social medias, on content creation, is because you're able to do a one-to-many presentation, right? So versus me coming here, right? And I'm able to speak directly to, you 9, 10, 12 people here, right? As soon as I gather this content from my phone over there, the camera over here, the camera over there, I'm going to be able to then publish that to YouTube, to Instagram, to Facebook, to TikTok, all of these different channels, which is why it's called Omnipresent. I'm going to be showing up across every single channel that my ideal client is at. And whether or not they actually opt in and buy into me off of the first go around, I'm going to continuously publish content that puts me in front of one-to-many type opportunities. And so this is really the biggest issue in today's market that we're starting to see, especially being more on the younger side of a millennial, that you see a lot of like the Gen Z, Gen A type people taking advantage of, is getting active on social media and making posts, whether that be quality content or whether it just be straight off of their phone. They're just doing it, right? You see them just taking the opportunities. And so I'm going to be talking to you guys about the primary thing, which is what I call the common motifs, which is the 5 most common mistakes holding your business back. The M is marketing misalignment. O is your overlooked offers. T is targeting without tracking. I is influence without intention. And F is creating funnels without any follow through. And so let's go ahead and unpack each one of these a little bit deeper. And so the number one mistake that most entrepreneurs make, that you guys will not, is marketing misalignment. Your message fails to match your market demand and the market message, so that you are allowing yourself to speak directly into that ideal client that you have on the other side of this camera or on the other side of a conversation, right? So your voice is unheard, it's generic, your vision is unseen, it's invisible, and the most important thing about creating a marketing plan and a message that is aligned to your authentic voice. So you need people to not just like when they see you face to face, or when they do come to see you face to face, they actually get to know who you are, right? The same way as when you start posting content onto social media, so that there's no kind of misalignment there, like, oh, who am I meeting when I actually see this person versus what I see online, right? So you need to create an authentic voice. And the reason why this is important is, in today's age, right, there's a statistic that's out there right now that every potential buyer that you have needs to be seeing at least 7 hours or 7 touch points of content before they're willing to buy in and opt into a purchased product. And so it increases your overall chance, not only for attraction, but the opportunity to then build trust and connection and nurturing with this lead or prospect. All right, and so yeah, if you want to also experience the growth out of this, then you need to clarify what your core message and what you provide as the desired result to a hyper-specific audience and problem. The reason why I say hyper-specific is that a lot of entrepreneurs will talk about like all of these grand ideas, right? But do all of these grand ideas actually get pushed into implementation, or do they stay in prototyping, right? So we need to actually, create that vehicle, that avenue of success, right? That allows everything to stay in motion. And so with Merakairos Media, that's what we aim to do, is we aim to deliver story-driven content that attracts, builds trust, and challenges a prospect's commitment to change. Mistake number 2 is that your offers are often overlooked. And so whether you are applying for grants, whether you are still in prototyping phase, whether you are bootstrapping, fundraising, or you're looking for a VC or something like that, you need to be having, if you have the content available, right? Say you already have the leverage of, hundreds of thousands of followers and people are engaging with your content. You already have an idea that's coming to fruition. People are already buying in or opting in as following. Maybe they may not be buying a product yet, right? This opens up the opportunity for a lender to kind of give that credibility to you as a company that people are already interested in buying into your product, right? And so that's the power that you have in today's age with creating social media content. You're able to kind of leverage your feeds as the TV show, and you're able to leverage your stories as those commercials, because those commercials go away in 24 hours, right? So you're able to kind of leverage social media to kind of be almost like an ad directly to them, even though it's an organic feed, right? So you're able to share about your company, what you have to offer, and how to engage back with you, whether that be through DMs, whether that be through email, whether that be through SMS texts. You're able to then set up funnels, which we'll talk about later, to then guide that buyer down a path that leads them into opting into your overall offer. And so the reason why your offers are overlooked is because you're selling something that nobody actually wants or may not understand. Your offer is unclear, compelling, or non-urgent, or you offer a premium product or service, but you aren't guaranteeing or selling the actual result of the product or service. And so you need to be able to craft an offer that solves a deep and painful problem with a clear path to results. This will ensure that as soon as you start to approach, think of it like a business plan, right? When you write a business plan and you start to go approach a lender or a bank or a VC, whatever the case may be, and you're starting to bootstrap for money and fundraising, you need to have a clear business plan or else they're not even going to look at it, right? You get down to the nitty gritties of your company overview, your management, your financials, what you expect, what you're projecting, and then they end up making a decision based off of all of these things. Well, what if you had a social media page that explained all of those things and broke all of those things down and exemplified and maximized and amplified yourself as an expert, to then you don't have to necessarily even go through the process of building out a business plan because you built a brand that people already know and can engage with, right? So that's a little bit about what you guys can eventually do through your social media, and Crystal's probably doing that as well for herself and for her clients as well. And you need to build around, like I said, one scalable offer and over-deliver the results on that one thing. Like I said earlier, entrepreneurs tend to think very big, right? And we throw out this very wide net, but we fail to actually engage with that very singular person and call them out by name, right? And so that all kind of ties back to the last slide of marketing and messaging misalignment, is that your message isn't targeting that very specific person. I know that the message and the idea, the product or service is good for everyone, right? Like, I know that it's good for everyone. I know that these specialty bras are going to be very good for every single woman that buys into it, but not every single woman is going to buy into that bra, right? So I need to find them and I need to track exactly who that person is. I'm going to call them out by name, right? So for example, I'll go to a specific example with my restaurant. We broke down the buyer persona, right? Which is, I'm looking for Karen. This Karen is someone that actually attended my church or attends our church. Her name is Karen Mabessa. Her husband's in the military. She's in her 40s. She has 3 kids. They have after-school programs. And she is too lazy to cook food, right? And she eats out all the time, right? So if I'm able to identify and break down that very specific buyer persona, I can start crafting my offer that speaks directly to that one person, right? I know that they have 4 people in their family, so now I can create a menu item that's called the Feed the Familia, which is to feed for 4 people, right? And I know that she doesn't necessarily care how much she spends on this food, right? So I'm going to be able to bring that up to a premium product offer for them to, target that one specific person, versus my bowls that I offer for this restaurant that, that's more geared towards like the business lunch person coming in, quick eats, get out the door, right? So that's how you're able to kind of craft a singular offer that is geared towards a very specific problem and a very specific person and call it out. And that's what I hope that you guys start to do within your own business and can really break that part. If you're going to take anything away from this presentation, make sure that you present a very clear front end offer that allows people to be going through a very clear ascension path of growth towards you and your business, okay? Mistake number 3 is that you are targeting without tracking. And so you're doing everything under the sun to run ads or get your business, your product or service in front of people, but you don't actually know what's working. And so you're throwing pasta at the wall and expecting it to stick. You don't have any data, no dashboards, nothing that's actually dialed in to target or retarget people that are wanting your product or service, but you don't actually know where they're at. And so it creates a bottleneck in your actual process of taking on more leads and clients because you don't even know who they are, where they're at, what they're spending, what their behavior types are like. All of the things that I kind of broke down in the previous slide is that you need to identify that very specific person. And so when you identify that very specific person, I'm able to go and target, okay, the moms over here in Rancho Santa Fe, they do Pilates on the weekend, blah, 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 right? Like I can break all of that down and, oh wait, and I know that she's very busy, so she needs childcare, right? So that's why it's like when you can identify those very specific buyer personas and you can target them, right? You can set up, especially in like social media right now, social media and on your websites, you can have DM automations, people and like AI bots right now, right? Which is something that we can set up, where basically as soon as a person comes onto your profile, it immediately starts tracking everything that they do, right? So they clicked on this post, they clicked on this post, they clicked on this post, they spent this amount of time on your profile, all of those things. And so you can set up different parameters that allow you to then say, okay, they spent more than 5 minutes engaging with my posts, right? Or engaging with my profile. Now let me go and reach out to them on a cold DM and say, hey, Linda, I saw you spent a lot of time here. Thank you for the follow. Here's a free blank. Here's a $10 off blank, right? You need to be able to set up those type of systems if you're looking to scale. That's what's really kind of holding back the average or the successful entrepreneur from those that are creating those sustainable growth systems or those evergreen growth systems, is including automations, including scalability. That's how you become efficient and effective in the marketplace. And so with Merakairos Media, that's what we do. We analyze the who, what, when, where, and how to target that ideal client and run them through an optimal omnipresent funnel that then leads them into your ideal client and gets them bought in. And if you don't know how to do that, that's where we come in. But I'm not trying to pitch you on anything. Mistake number 4 is that you have influence without intention. And so you and your content do not move people towards your specific offer, right? A lot of people will throw out the vanity metrics of views and likes and comments and things like that. But marketing is only effective if you actually land the sale, right? And marketing should do about 90%, 80 to 90% of the actual sales process. I'll give a very specific example. One of the warm leads that I'm trying to convert into a client right now. He is a fitness coach, has 45,000 or 46,000 followers on Instagram right now, and only does $1,000 a month on digital sales. He is bootstrapped, tied down to his one-on-one, in-person, coaching program right now, and it's great. It makes him $10,000 a month, right, in-person sales, but only making $1,000 a month in online sales, right? And so the problem here is that, yes, he has the influence, right? 46,000 people of organic reach to, post to, right? But imagine if he's only making $1,000 in sales, even if he offered something that was only $1, right? $1, and he converted, the average is about 1 to 3%, 1 to 5% of organic reach. Let's say 10%, just to make it an easy number. 10% of his organic reach, and he sold one product for $1. like an ebook or a guide, a meal plan that he could just chat GPT, right? He could be making $4,500 a month, $4,600 a month just off of that $1 item, right? And so a lot of people can, once you kind of get to this space of getting active on social medias, this is kind of on the higher scope of things. The earlier things were kind of like early social media things that you can do. But once you start establishing that influence, right, you need to craft that offer that then is able to target those, those people that are within your reach, right? 45,000 people within his reach. If he sold a $1 item, he'd already be making an extra $3,500 a month just in online sales, right? That's just a little example of how to leverage, influence, and people aren't doing it. People aren't doing it enough. They're so reliant on kind of, as we were talking about earlier, Rachel, that kind of old mindset of way to approach things. And that's why I love what I do now, which is, I love helping entrepreneurs grow their brand and sell online. Because, like I said, I have only a limited opportunity. Even if I presented you guys all the same opportunity of like $1,000, let us get involved in your business type of thing right here, right? That's only 10 people that I'm actually able to push that out to versus the, 7,000 people that I have online for me to go and, reach that message to. Does that make sense? And that's only on the organic side, right? Once you actually start, getting into the ad side of thing, you can actually start really targeting very specific buyer personas via Instagram, Facebook, services, Google, YouTube, etc. as well. And so, what we do with Merakairos Media is we create that omnipresent funnel strategy that creates a very intentional call to actions so that, one, we educate and attract that ideal buyer persona that we, kind of want you to be having or you want to be having. And then we build that trust through that organic page, right? Like that TV show that you're doing that character development, and then you're creating like a character arc. And then eventually, like, you're so bought into this TV series that, like, now I'm going to the live shows, or now I'm, buying the same outfits that, that person was wearing on the show, right? And so that's what you eventually want people to be doing. If you are getting active on social medias, that's how you should be viewing your social media to be used, from the business perspective. So it's great to be sharing about your kids and your lifestyle and things like that too. But when it comes to like the business side of social media, is you can create very actionable, intentional steps that get people to actually, buy into the influence that you have. You already have it. Like, you guys are already experts in what you do. You already have, very good ideas, and you want to bring it to market. It's great, but you need to start expressing that authority and that influence and leveraging that to then sell it back to them. And so that's how you leverage social media. Mistake number 5 is you create a funnel with no follow through. And so I kind of compare this to a bottle of sriracha. Me and the wife were eating some Thai food last night, and I'm trying to get the sriracha out of the bottle, right? But the cap was still like on, like, I couldn't turn the bottle of sriracha so that the actual sriracha could go onto my food. And so what happens is it bottlenecks, and you leave that sriracha hanging right in the bottle and not on the food. In the same way, when you create a funnel with no follow through, people are lined up willing to buy, right? You put out this amazing marketing campaign or this ad campaign, and you have a ton of people willing to opt into your offer. But if you're only hopping on, a call, 30-minute phone call or an hour phone call, trying to chase down every single lead that came through, your sales funnel, then imagine you get 1,000 people trying to line up, right? You're leaving them in will call, and then they become less interested, or you start to lack that credibility and trust for them to actually opt in because you're not getting back to them, right? Imagine that you're signing up for, or you're trying to interview for a job, or you're sending out your resume on LinkedIn and that employer never ever gets back to you, right? So it's like, where the hell is my resume at? Like, why didn't you at least send me a rejection letter or something like that, right? Same way in a funnel is if you leave people hanging for too long, then they'll become disinterested in your overall process and sales or product or service that you're willing to sell them. And so what you need to do is you need to be qualifying your leads prior to them getting to the bottom of the funnel so that you can actually start converting on those leads efficiently and effectively. So, setting up different forms, setting up different marketing strategies that only target that hyper-specific person so that they're already qualified. Like I said, you don't want to be talking to everyone. You want to be talking to that very singular individual person that you know will buy into that product or service that you have to offer. And so your funnels, like I said, will lack a clear ascension plan or conversion plan that gets them actually going through that bottle of sriracha so that they can be pouring that out on your food. And so the workaround behind this is that you need to create a systemized follow-up system with email campaigns, SMS campaigns, DM automations that warm leads into actually paid buyers. Same thing within ads as well. We didn't touch base on it too much yet, but when you craft a front-end offer, the first thing that people see of your product or service, you want that thing to be the most market demand thing that they can possibly touch. Yes, you may have a lot more things on the back end to offer, like with you, for example, Crystal, group coaching or one-on-one coaching or something that requires much more of your time to be hands-on with, right? You may have that available to them. They don't necessarily need to know that you do that off the front end, right? On the front end, they know that you create video content for them and it produces this amount of results. And then, oh, now I'm starting to generate a lot of leads. I need some help to understand how I'm going to get these leads to actually buy into something else, right? Or I need to understand how I'm going to unlock the next step, right? So now you're able to then say, hey, so you create a problem for them. And you want to keep creating problems, painful problems, deep problems for each customer so that every single way that they go with you, they can continue to ascend in your business with you. So for me, I don't necessarily offer like my full system of, AI automations and workflow automations and, website and branding and all of those things off of the front end, right? On the front end, the only thing I offer is content creation, content marketing, right? Ads, done for you ads. That's it. Once you start getting a ton of leads in, it's like, oh dang, like I have 1,000 people I need to be able to reach, but I don't know how to contact all of them, right? So then that's when we start to implement those systems because people are willing to buy, right? So you need to set up those systems for them. And so that's the way that you're able to set up a very successful funnel that then gets people to continuously work with you, right? When you think about an overall business flywheel, you need to start first with your core product offer, right? Something that initially gets people bought in, it gets people hooked in. Then the next thing is you have that premium product offer, right? Something that people are going to like, only a very specific handful of people will buy into that product, right? And then you have what's called like your business continuity offer. So something that keeps the engine going, right? So it's something that gets people flooded in and then working through, and then on the back end, it keeps them working with you. You have something recurring that they can continuously buy into. And that's how you set up a very successful business that endures for, 5, 10, 15 years, 20 years, whatever. And that's the way that every single business operates. And so to kind of summarize everything that we unpacked with the common motifs that most entrepreneurs kind of struggle with, especially in the early stages of business, is what I call the grow framework. And so in order to grow, you need to generate leads through content. You need to refine your strategies. You need to optimize your offers and then win clients consistently and predictably. Right? If you want to grow like I said, a long-term sustainable business and have sustainable growth, or even an evergreen system, then you need to be implementing these core things into your business today. And so, with that being said, here are the 5 stages of business. Just a quick backstory of where I got this from is I just finished my SBA Thrive Emerging Leaders program back in December. And so I was in a group of 15 CEOs here in San Diego, 1,000 CEOs across the United States. All had to be making X amount of money, had to be in business a certain amount of years, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is coming from very like high level CEOs, and we all had like our own business coaches that all had to be making a minimum of like 7 figures to 8 figures a year. And so most of you are going to be somewhere in these kind of stages. So I'll kind of break down each one. Existing is going to be you already have your business formation, right? So people can kind of get to know a little bit, maybe you've been published because you filed for a sole proprietorship or a partnership and you had to go into the news journal or something like that for people to, understand what your business has to offer. So that's kind of your existing phase. And then you have your surviving phase. So this is where you're starting to bootstrap. You're trying to find, people to, friends, family, kind of fundraise, get the idea off of the ground, and you're in your survival mode. Success phase is when you're actually starting to kick over some sales, right? So you're making money, you're out of the red, and you're starting to be able to, bring this product really to life, and you have the stress off of your back. So that's why I say probably most of you guys are in between these 2 stages. And as I alluded to from earlier, is that if you want to get into that sustainable growth and kind of evergreen type of area, you need to be implementing delegation, right? So having a team, that's going to be the first thing. Have a team. You need to be delegating tasks that keep you from working in the business and start to work on the business, okay? And then the second thing I would say is implementing those automations. So, on the back end, right? How are you tracking your people? How are you working them through the funnel to actually buy into your coaching, your consulting, your prototype, right? How are you getting them to, buy into the funding of, what you want to bring to incarcerated individuals? How are you going to be getting people to get into the fitness industry, right? And go into your gym? And how do you create that on a systematic way where you're generating continuity through your business, right? It's through automation, it's through delegation, and it's through breaking through the limiting beliefs that you have as an entrepreneur to do it all by yourself, right? I just recently had to go through that. I was in the restaurant for 4 years before I eventually phased myself out. And I was out of that for 1.5 years. But in that time frame that I was able to like break away from actually being in the business and working on it, I was able to, trust my team, for one, to be running the systems and operations. And 2, I was able to start focusing on the things that would eventually, provide me and our business, more income, more opportunities, more income, more influence, more impact in the community. And so that's the way that we kind of measure success. It's not necessarily just how much revenue that we have, how much income that we make, but how much income and influence or how much impact and influence that we can create in the community. And so that's just a little bit about me and my experience and how I was able to kind of get into more of the stage 4, stage 5 side of business, where like now I have the time freedom to, be with my kids more. And now I have the time freedom to, do whatever really. And so that's where I hope that you guys are kind of already imagining yourselves to kind of get to with your businesses. And so the biggest thing here and the problem here is that you have the blueprint, you have the tools, right? I broke down kind of the common motifs, the common mistakes that most entrepreneurs make. We broke down how you can consistently grow and have business continuity within your business. But you don't have the team, you don't have the space, you don't have the capacity, and most people will leave programs like this feeling very inspired and very equipped, but not provided an opportunity to implement the quick wins that they have. And so we talked about offers. I want to offer you guys the opportunity to schedule a free strategy session with me by scanning the QR code. You can have a free 30-minute consultation with me. We can meet up at my business location, which is over in Miramar, the MK Lab. And you guys will also, after we have that 30-minute consultation, so that I can understand more about your business, then we can break down kind of where you're at with your content already, and what you intend to do and what you intend to bring to the market. We'll go over scripting content together in that 30-minute session. And then you will have a free 30-minute content creating session at the lab where we will provide you the content recording for the files and then hand that over to you guys for you guys to actually implement into your own business completely free of charge. All right, so that's going to be my special gift for you guys, and thank you. Make sure that you follow me and my wife at Christian N. Graham and at Stephanie N. Graham across Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and learn about more ways to grow in your business. You can follow it at the MK Lab or at Merakairos Media. We have a ton of new content. We're going through a complete rebrand right now with Merakairos Media. We're going to be implementing a ton of new kind of creative ways and strategies to bring content to social media. And so we'll be discussing a lot more of that in the coming weeks. We have a very big product launch coming in the middle of April, middle to end of April. And so, yeah, thank you guys so much for your time. And scan the QR code if you haven't already. You get access to my calendar. We can book a call, go over all of those details, and then I can help you guys to actually implement, this content strategy, content marketing into your own businesses. All right?
All right. Thank you, Christian. We'll give him a round.
Thank you, guys.
And Christian,